Right. So, in one of the previous videos, we saw that what is the relationship between the output voltage and input voltage in case of a DC to DC boost converter, right? So we showed that if you have a DC to DC boost converter, which is operating in continuous conduction mode, considering small output voltage ripple and ideal components. Right? When we say ideal components, that means switch is ideal, inductor is ideal, capacitor is ideal, and so on. In that case, the output voltage comes out to be input voltage upon 1 minus D, where D is the duty cycle of switch S1. So now in this particular video, what we'll see is what if we still consider continuous conduction mode, we still consider small output voltage level, but we do not take the assumption of ideal component, then how would this output voltage to input voltage relationship changes? Before going ahead, let me explain you what do we mean by ideal components. For example, if we consider inductor, right? Inductor would generally be made up of a core and be made up of wires, right? Windings. So core would have hysteresis loss, eddy current loss, right? At the same time, wire would have copper loss. Therefore, when we just consider it pure L with no losses, that is an ideal component. In real life, it depends on how complex you want to consider, but let's say just as a step ahead, you can consider a small resistance in series with inductor, right, which represents the winding losses, right? So this is something which is, so left part is ideal and the right part is a little bit more actual version of that component, right? Similarly, when we consider a capacitance, it's we consider pure C. In real life, you all have a series resistance. We call it equivalent series resistance of capacitance. Sometimes capacitance would also have a self-discharge rate, so there may be a parallel resistance also, right? Third thing is, if you remember, the third component which we use in our circuit is a switch, which is an ideal switch. As we would see, this ideal switch is actually realized by using MOSFETs, IGBTs, or diodes, right? Depending on whichever you choose, you may have, when it is in on state, you may have a voltage drop or you may have a resistance, maybe one of them, or so on, right? So essentially on the right hand side are the real implementations of these ideal components. So when we do calculation based on ideal, we get a certain expression for input to output voltage. What if we consider the actual components? One way to go about is we can consider all the components to be actual, right? And we can solve for it and we can get an expression from output voltage. But since this is an introductory course, what we would do is we would consider one of the non-idealities, right? We'll go ahead with that and we will show you the basic effect of that non-ideality. And then later on by yourself, you can consider other non-idealities and you can solve for that also. So let us only consider for the time being non-ideality of the inductor. Let me draw boost converter which has the actual inductor is represented as a series combination of an ideal inductor and a resistance. And then you have these switches followed by output voltage and load resistance, right? Which is S1, S2. This is how the circuit looks like if you consider an actual inductor instead of an ideal inductor. Now what happens is, let's say we want to do the same thing. So when S1 is on, right, the equivalent circuit would look something like this. And when S1 is off, the equivalent circuit would look something like this. Can write, let's say this is reference direction for VL, right? So you can use the volt second balance. Remember, volt second balance you can only apply across an ideal inductor. So if the full inductor has an L and an R component, you cannot apply volt second across the total inductance. Why? Because there is some losses happening in the resistance. So we would apply volt second balance across this only this L component, not across the R component. So let me represent this voltage as VL, right, with this reference direction. So when we apply volt second balance, it is integral of VL dt equal to 0 going from 0 to Ts. We can rewrite this as integral of 0 to, sorry, we can rewrite this as integral of 0 to dTs VL to dt plus integral of dTs to Ts VL dt, which can be further rewritten as, the first part can be rewritten as, so first part is when S1 is on, that is the period 0 to dTs, and during that period what is VL? VL is given by Vn minus IL into small r, where IL is the current flowing in the inductor, right? This is the equation of the inductor voltage when switch S1 is on. When switch S1 is off, the inductor voltage is given by Vin minus IL into R minus VO. This is the voltage when the switch is off. So this is something which we substitute in here, and this is something which we substitute in here, right? So I can rewrite by using these substitutions as integral 0 to dTs Vn minus IL into R dt plus integral dTs to Ts Vn IL into R minus V naught into dt is equal to 0, right? Now once I get this expression, I can further rewrite it. I can further combine some of the terms. So I'll combine this term with this term, and I can write Vn minus IL into R integral over 0 to Ts plus integral of dTs to Ts minus VO into dt is equal to 0. Further, the first term, now if you see what is the first term, the first term gives you Vn into Ts minus small r into average component of current IL into Ts. Is that okay? Because if you see what is average component of current IL, it is equal to integral of IL dt 0 to Ts 1 upon Ts, right? So therefore this integral we have substituted by capital IL here. The other second term, what does it give? It gives minus V naught into 1 minus V times Ts is equal to 0. Let's just remove Ts from all the three terms. So what we'll get is Vin minus R times capital IL, where capital IL represents the average inductor current, minus Vo into 1 minus T equal to 0. So we have got one equation here. Call it equation number 2. Now we want to find VO. right? We know the duty cycle, we know the input voltage, we know the value of resistance. What about the inductor current? Average value. Now, the average value of inductor current, it depends on the load current, right? How it relates? Let me show using the circuit. So if you see, this current here is IL. Let me use a different pen. This current here is IL. This current here is IS2. This current here is I load. And this current here is I cap. We have already seen that IS2 is equal to I load plus IC, right? And this thing here. And if I take average over switching period, then I can say average value of IS2 over a switching period TS is equal to average value of load current over a switching period, which I can write it as capital I load, plus average value of capacitor current, which at steady state must be zero, right? Which was the ampere second law. So therefore, the average value of switch current is equal to the average value of load current. From the figure, if I try to draw the waveforms, so this is S1 is on, this is S1 is off. What will happen to inductor current? Inductor current would rise, inductor current would fall, right? Now at this point you may have a doubt that why I have drawn straight line for the inductor current, because when the inductor current is rising, right? See the figure 1, right? When the inductor current is rising, then it is actually, earlier it was just pure inductor and a voltage source, so therefore the rise was linear, but now it is, there's a resistance also, so the rise is no longer going to be linear, right? It's going to be exponential in nature. But then the value of the resistance is much smaller, and that is why we can assume that the time constant is very very large, and almost the rise is linear, right? And therefore in this figure we are showing linear rise as well as linear fall, almost. Okay, this is the inductor current. Now what about the switch S2 current? Switch S2 current, IS2, is what? When switch is on, S1 is on, the switch 2 current is 0, and then switch 2 current becomes equal to the inductor current. So this is the wave shape of IS2. So how is, essentially what we want to do is we want to know what is the inductor current average, right? And we want to relate it to the load current somehow. So this is the way we are taking. We are trying to relate the average of inductor with the average of load current. So now if you see what is the average of inductor current, average of inductor current is this in between, right? This is capital IL, right? And if you see, you can rewrite this as the average of, what is average of inductor current? This is actually the area under this black line, right? That is the average of inductor current. And what is the average of switch S2 current? That is the area shown by this other shaded area, right? So you can write average current IL upon average of I load equal to 1 upon 1 minus D, right? Why? Because this area and this area, the duration is, You see IL duration is 1 and duration for this one is 1 minus D. So just by looking at this graphically itself, you can write this relationship. Now once you have a relationship between IL and I load, right, then you can substitute this value of, so this is in denominator you essentially have switch current, not load current. You have average value of switch S1 which is equal to load. Now if you substitute this value of IL into equation 2, then we can rewrite, we can say that V in minus R times capital I load on D minus VO into 1 minus 2 0, right? Now what is I load? I load is the average current of average load current, which is equal to the average output voltage upon resistance. So I can write that I load is equal to average output voltage capital VO upon R. Substituting this expression in here, you get Vn as R upon 1 minus D into VO by capital R minus VO 1 minus D equal to 0. Okay. Rearrange this expression like this. VO is equal to Vn, and take 1 minus D common because this was the usual term, and then there is an additional term which is 1 plus R upon capital R minus D square. If you see, this term was the ideal DC to DC boost converter term, right? Where you would get VO is equal to V in upon 1 minus D, right? This was the original term. Plus, because of the non-ideality, we have got an additional term which depends on small r, which depends on capital R, load resistance, and which also depends on the duty cycle. What does this imply? Let me show you graphically what does this mean. If I plot the output voltage versus duty cycle, let's say duty cycle goes from 0 to 1, right? If I consider ideal, so this is actual. Let me also write expression for ideal, which is VO is V in up to 1 minus D. This is ideal. Let me plot VO by V, which is essentially the gain of this DC to DC boost converter. So if you take D equal to 0, let me first plot the ideal curve. So if you take D equal to 0, then your V out is equal to input voltage. So ratio is 1. And as you tend towards D equal to 1, your denominator would tend towards 0, and therefore your overall output voltage would tend towards infinite. Therefore, you can show this curve something like this, which is tending towards infinity, right? This is how the ideal boost converter would look like. So in an ideal converter, if you have a situation, you can get any amount of gain. You can get 5, 10, 100, 20, 500, whatever value you want, right? You just keep on increasing the duty cycle and your gain will continue to rise. But what happens in the actual case? In the actual case, initially, let's substitute in the actual expression D equal to 1. So if you substitute D equal to 1, sorry, D equal to 0, then this will become 1. The first term will become 1. But there is going to be a small term here, right? Why? Because for D equal to 0, this is 1. So this is 1 plus R by capital R. So therefore, gain is going to be just less than 1, right? It will be slightly less than 1, not exactly 1. Further, now as you increase duty cycle, right, and let's say you make duty cycle equal to 1, then what happens? When D is equal to 1, this term is 0, this term is also 0. So how do we rewrite it? There are two terms which are going to 0. So instead of doing that, let me rewrite. So you can write it as V naught is equal to V in upon 1 minus D plus small r upon r into 1 minus D, right? I'm just rewritten the same expression. Substitute D tending towards 1, then you get V naught is equal to V in upon D is 1, so 1 minus 1 plus r upon r into 1 minus 1, right? What would this look like? This would look like V in upon r, capital R, 1 minus 1, which is 0. So therefore, when d equal to 1, your gain would actually come to 0 instead of going towards infinity. So if you can also do, so certainly it's starting from 1 coming to 0. If you see, first it would rise, and then after a certain point it would hit a peak value, and then it would start falling, right? So this would is going to be your D max, and this point is going to be your V max, right? Sorry, or gain max, maximum gain. So this point implies that this is the point where you can get the maximum gain from a DC to DC boost converter, right? You can get a maximum gain from DC converter if you use this value of D max, right? So in real life situations, the boost converter cannot provide you infinite gain. Its gain is limited because of the losses happening in the inductor, which we have considered here. But even if you consider losses in switches and other components, you would get some similar observation. The values may not be exactly same, the expression may not be exactly same, but you would get a similar expression which would indicate that boost converter has a finite gain, and if you tend towards d equal to 1, then it gains becomes tend towards 0. So once we have found the relationship between the output voltage and input voltage in an actual case, which is given by the expression, actual expression, right? We realize that we cannot get a more gain than Gmax. But now the question is, how much is Gmax and what is the value of Dmax? So Dmax is the point at which you get maximum gain Gmax. So we can solve it. We already have the equation, so it would not take much time to solve it. So we have, I'll just rewrite the expression for V naught. V naught is equal to V in upon 1 minus D plus R by R into 1 minus D. Let me call this denominator by an expression y. So I try to differentiate y with respect to d and substitute it equal to 0. That would give me the minima of the denominator, which would essentially give me the maxima of the gain, right? So if I do that, differentiate and make it equal to 0 with respect to d, I get 0 minus 1 plus r upon capital R 1 minus d square into minus 1 into minus 1, right, equal to 0. If I rewrite this, I get minus 1 minus minus will multiply plus r upon r into minus d square equal to 0, right? This would give me 1 minus d square is equal to small r by capital R, and minus d is equal to root of r by r. Therefore, d is equal to 1 minus root of r by r. Right? This is your d max. Right? If you guys want, you can do the second derivative and you can check if this would actually be. We wanted the minima point for the bottom, so therefore you can do a second derivative and you can check if this would be greater than or equal to 0 at d max value, right? You can do that cross check yourself. Would not do it here. Let me name it either equation 4, right? So we get the expression for d max. Now what we can also find, what is the maximum gain, what is Gmax. How can we find Gmax? Gmax is given by, Gmax is nothing but VO by Vin at Bmax, right, which is given by 1 upon 1 minus B plus R by R into 1 minus B, right? I can substitute D in this expression. What will I get? I can do 1 upon root of R by R into root of, I can further rewrite it as and there is, so this is, sorry, yeah, this is the expression, correct, yeah. So I can further rewrite this as 1 upon root of R by R plus root of R by R, right? And this would become 2 times root of R by R, right? This would be my G max. Sorry, I think I made a mistake. This should be 1 by 2, right? Because in denominator, both the terms get added, right? This is your G max. So we have got the value of D max, which was 1 minus root R by R. We have got the value of G max also. Let's take an example now, just to sort of understand that what is the usual value of G max, right? So for example, let us consider a converter which has a small r by capital R ratio of about 0.02, right? It's usually a practical thing. What does this mean? That small resistance is 2% of the load resistance value. What does it mean? It means that if both of them have same current, then the losses happening in the small resistance would be about 2% of the losses that are happening in the capital R, which is the load resistance. In other words, efficiency you can think is approximately proportional to capital R, which is the useful power which is going out, upon capital R output power plus the losses, right? This is if you assume same current. We understand the current is not same, but it's just to understand. So roughly, if you talk about efficiency of about, here we are, let's say, talking about efficiency of 97 to 98%, right? Which is usually the converter efficiency, buck converter, boost converter efficiency. So for this kind of efficiency, if we consider these values small r by capital R to be 0.02, we can find what is going to be D max, right? What is going to be D max? It is going to be 1 minus root of 0.02, right, which you can calculate using calculator, and also you can find what is Gmax, what is the maximum gain, 1 upon 2 root of R by R. Let me quickly do the calculation. You get 0.858, right? This is the maximum duty cycle, and you get Gmax value equal to about 3.53, right? So if you see, for a practical condition, we can get a gain of about 3 or a 3.5, and this is the maximum duty cycle. If you try to further increase the duty cycle above this value, your gain will start reducing. And that is why very popularly you would hear people saying that the regular DC to DC boost converters can be used up to 4 to 4 to 6 times gain, right? How 6 times? Because you are getting 3.53, but then you can design your converter, you use better quality inductors, you have smaller losses in the inductor, then you can get more gain, right? Similarly, if your inductor is not of so good quality, your switches are of not so good quality, then your gain might even be less than 4, the maximum gain, right? But generally, it is 4 to 6 times gain can get from a regular boost converter. So what if you want more gain? If you want more gain, there are different topologies, there are different circuits which you can use, which we would probably have a glimpse of those DC to DC converter in subsequent videos.